A while ago we did this little comparison between 3 different variants of Lenovo's evergreen business do-it-all, the ThinkPad T14S. And today I have another one of those right here in front of me, and it's the same Gen 6 variant that has been powered by AMD and Qualcomm in our initial comparison. This one makes the jump to Team Blue's Lunar Lake though, and well, it might be your best option when looking for that sweet spot between fast enough for everything that comes your way during a busy workday, while also keeping you independent from any outlets for as long as possible. Sure, your max RAM config gets cut in half from what AMD can offer, and both competing platforms offer more performant CPU cores. But the Intel variant runs cooler and longer, so how about we play our favorite game of Pick Your Poison and get into it in a bit more detail. The Lenovo ThinkPad T14S is one of the most flexible laptops in general, especially considering that it is one of the only notebooks I could think of that you can spec with all 3 major mainstream CPU options in mid-2025. Again, we've already tested a Qualcomm X Elite variant, and our AMD model ran with Strix Point. This one, however, bets on Intel's Lunar Lake with the sort of mid-tier Core Ultra 5 228V with the integrated 130V, a 1TB SSD and 32 gigs of soldered but incredibly fast RAM. On Lenovo's website you have an extensive amount of options at your disposal and can even spec your very own T14S with higher-end Core Ultra 7 CPUs or the low-power U series, just in case you would want that. We have already covered everything about the T14S in a bit more detail in our initial comparison video, so please check out that one as well, but not to leave you hanging, let me give you a bit of a summary. In typical ThinkPad fashion, the 14-incher comes without any form of flair, unless you're one of those die-hard trackpoint fanatics. That said, when it comes to subtlety, nothing will beat the good old ThinkPad styling, and the T14 backs it up with a sturdy construction and premium materials that still maintain a sleek and lightweight footprint. Add in a very generous amount of ports with a pair of Thunderbolt 4s, HDMI, a headphone jack, a SIM card slot, a smart card reader and another pair of USB-A 3.2 Gen 2s, and you should hardly ever get into trouble when wanting to connect something to your ThinkPad. The 5-megapixel webcam makes sure you look your best in those Monday morning team meets, and thanks to solid wireless transfer rates, you should have no trouble to connect to everything everywhere. When it comes to inputs, we also do not need a ton of words, and given that good keyboards are a classic ThinkPad tradition, you should hardly find anything to complain about the T14's with generous travel for such a small machine and satisfying feedback. The trackpad is a bit on the smaller side and unfortunately not glass, but it worked reliably during our testing. The 60Hz IPS panel is getting the job done once again and also gets a bit brighter compared to the other variants. But if you're after any sort of eye candy, it might make sense to wait a little until the 120Hz OLED variants will become available. Alright folks, let's talk performance. The Core Ultra 5 228V might be the lowest tiered Lunar Lake chip available, but very much like the more expensive Core Ultra 7 variants, it bets on the same combination of 4 performance and 4 smaller efficiency cores, and as we know by now, raw CPU grunt is definitely not what Intel was aiming for with this one. But did they succeed with the rest? Before we get to our performance results, we did some additional measurements, and when looking solely at efficiency, Lunar Lake might beat its Meteor Lake predecessor and AMD under single core load, but if you need all the cores, Qualcomm's Snapdragon is still quite a bit ahead. When it comes to the actual performance numbers, AMD and the X Elite ThinkPad deliver similar results that are leaps and bounds ahead of our Intel T14 here in Cinebench 24's multi-core test, while Intel is reigning supreme in single-core scenarios. So if you mostly use your ThinkPad for light to medium loads, this would be something that would benefit your experience, while the AMD variant would be the better fit for any heavier CPU-dependent workloads. The same goes for the Snapdragon variant, just keep in mind potential issues with compatibility, even though I personally never had any issues here. Despite the technically lower numbers, the T14S is a snappy system even with Team Blue Silicon powering the 14-incher, but very much like with our CPU testing, as soon as you add Apple's M4 into the mix, the whole of the Windows world pales a little in comparison. Even though one could argue that something like the MacBook Air 13 might not really be aimed at the usual ThinkPad crowd, but since we are talking numbers here for now, a little perspective never hurt nobody. The integrated 130V in our Lunar Lake Core Ultra 5 might not be the fastest built-in GPU Intel has on offer, but even their second in line can relatively easily beat the competition here in our synthetics. And this also translates quite impressively to our gaming rating, even though, once again, this one hardly classifies as a gaming laptop. But then again, if you regularly do use applications that benefit from GPU acceleration, the Intel T14 could be the safest bet of them all. If you do want to unwind with the occasional game after work, low to medium settings will give you a decent enough experience. As a direct benefit of the lower core count, the new Intel ThinkPad can beat the competition when it comes to fan noise, even though it cannot quite replicate what HP's latest take on a business laptop can bring to the table. And I just recently got my hands on this absolute beauty, so please make sure to subscribe so you won't miss our full video coming your way really soon. Overall temperatures are also in Lunar Lake's pocket, and as always, if you want to get all of our numbers for this one, make sure to check out our written review on the website. Away from the wall, Intel can close the gap to its Snapdragon competitor, and both ThinkPads deliver simply insane battery life, possibly making you forget what your notebook charger even looks like during a typical workday. The new Intel model also almost doubles the battery life we got from the Meteor Lake-powered T14S Gen 5, and despite the same sized battery, AMD hardly stands a chance here as well. Alright, so again, which CPU platform is the best fit for the T14S? Considering you will hardly do any real heavy lifting with a machine like this, overall system performance, long runtimes and low temperatures are probably the most important bits when it comes to your daily computing experience, and the Lunar Lake ThinkPad really shines in those areas. That said, none of the other options is actually bad in comparison, but each silicon has their distinct advantages and disadvantages, which is actually great news for you as a consumer, since you can simply pick and choose what works best for you. And you get your desired performance experience in the usual well-made, reliable packaging of a modern ThinkPad. As always, let me know in the comments below what you think and which CPU platform would be your choice and why. That should also be it for today. Please leave a like and sub on your way out. Thanks a ton for watching, folks. My name is Alex, you have been fantastic, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.